Okay, so for this lesson we will be covering matrix equations, and what you see here is an example of what we're going to be working with today. Looks like a linear equation, doesn't it? Alright, so how well can you solve equations? I probably shouldn't have to be asking that, but just in case. So equation like this, very basic, plus 3, 2x equals 8, x equals 4. I promise you, I never lie. Easy peasy, right? Next, let's do another one. Look at this one. Ooh, two variables now. Well, let's just say x equals 3. What do we do with that? Oh, put it right in there. So we have 3 plus 2y equals 4. So minus 3, we have 2y equals 1. Ooh, divided by 2 on both sides, y equals 1/2. Yay! Pretty simple, right? Don't worry, it's HL, it gets a little bit harder. Next. So now look at these guys. You see? Systems, your favorite. Look at all these variables and all these numbers. Luckily, we can solve these with matrices. So here we go. I'm going to turn this first system into a matrix. I'm going to first start with the coefficients, then the variables, then the answers. So in the beginning, when I start with my coefficients, I get this. You see where I got that from? I have 2, 3, then that's 1 there, and then -1 here. All right? That's how I got this one. The next one I'm going to get it is my variables, because you notice that the coefficients are multiplied by the variables. So I'm going to multiply this coefficient matrix by the variables. And here we go. Now, here's the thing. Some of you might have been thinking, well, wait. That's not how I pictured multiplying it in my head. I know some of you probably thought of doing, multiplying it like this, x and y. Well, why can't we do that? Remember, look at the order of this matrix. It's 2 by 2. So then this one has to be a 2 by 1 because these two must be the same in order to multiply them. And since those two are the same, that means that my solution, my answer is going to be this 2 by 1. And I'll show you that right here. All right, so now that we have our equation, we need to make sure that we treat this just like any linear equation. That's why in the beginning you saw this. You saw ax equals b. Well, here's our A, that's our matrix A. This is our variable matrix X. And these are the answers to the systems of equation, that's B. Now what we want to do is we want to get those variables, this variable matrix right here by itself. In order to do that, we have to move A. And it's not as simple as just dividing like a regular linear equation. What we have to do is get rid of A on this side by multiplying it by its inverse. And if we multiply by the inverse on that side, we also have to do the same thing to the other side. So it's going to be A inverse A variable matrix equals A inverse B. See how I did on the same exact side? Got to do the same thing. Now the reason why we do this is because, remember from the last lesson, if you multiply a matrix by its inverse, you will get the identity matrix. That's what we want. It's like treating it as 1. So it's almost like 1 times x equals, and then our answer will be this, A inverse times B. That will give us our answer here. But first we got to find the inverse. Well, remember, the inverse is going to be like this. A inverse equals, and if it's a 2 by 2, we have to do this by hand. A inverse is 1 over the determinant of A times, we had A, B, C, D here. Now we're going to have D, negative B, negative C, and A here. Alright, so let's find our determinant first. So if we have a matrix A is, A, B, C, D, we have to do the determinant of A equals A times D minus B times C. And if we do that here, we'll get A times D is 2 times -1 minus B times C, so that's 3 times 1. This is going to give us 2 times -1 is -2, minus 3 is going to be -5. That's our determinant. Now the formula here for the inverse says, okay, take 1 over the determinant, 1 over -5, multiply it by this new matrix. So D first, so it'll be -1, then negative B, -3, negative C, -1, and then A, 2. to scalar multiplication. We take 1 over negative 5, multiply by everything here. That's going to give us 1 over 5 here. And then it's going to give us 3 over 5 here. And then it'll give us another 1 over 5 here. And then lastly, it'll give us negative 2 over 5 in the last one. So that is our inverse matrix. So now we have to do this here. Multiply the inverse matrix by B. So I'll say this times B was 3, 4. And when we do that, we will end up with 3, negative 1. So if we go back to this here, it'll be saying that X and Y equals 3 and negative 1. See? Pretty simple. But then we're going to have our bigger matrices like this. Whew. So whenever it's bigger than 2 by 2, you don't have to do these by hand. The only thing you have to do is set it up. So you'll have this, just going by the coefficients here. So you see, that's 1, negative 2, 3, 1, negative 3. But then look, there's no z here, so that's 0. That's why I have 0 right here. And then 2, negative 5, 5. Then we have to have our variables here, x, y, and z, equals what we have in the last row or last column, 9, 4, 17. Now this is the calculator part. So in your calculator, you'll just insert these matrices into A and B, like this, second matrix. And if you notice, I put the 3 by 3 in first. There it is. And then went to edit, put in B. So in B, I put my answers 9, 4, and 17 because remember, in order to solve this, what we're doing is this. So what we have here is A, X equals B. What we want to get is X equals A inverse B. So luckily, if we do this in our calculator, the calculator will do this part for us. It'll find the inverse. And I will show you how that's done. Just quit here. And I'll say second matrix, put A in there, then inverse, see right there, this button, do that again, second matrix, click A, and then I'm going to press this button right here, that's inverse, then second matrix, and then go down to B, and I just multiply them, and then look, I get X, Y, and Z. X is 1, X is 1, Y is negative 1, and Z is 2. Now lastly, I just want to show you how you would set up a word problem. So here we have all 231 students in the math club. Yay, math, went on a field trip. Some students rode in vans. In vans, I'll say this V, which holds 7 students. And some rode in buses. I'll call that B, and each one holds 25 students. That's my equation right there. And then how many of each type of vehicle did they use if there were 15 vehicles total? That's my other equation. And I'll show you what that looks like. See, 7V plus 25B equals 231. That's the amount of students. 7 plus or V plus B equals 15. That's the number of vehicles. Now, if I were to do this by hand, this is a 2 by 2. I would have my my coefficients as 7, 25, 1, and 1. That. And then I would have V and B. And then I would have equals 231 and 15. And to solve this, I would have to do, this is A, that's X, and that's B. And I want to do X equals the inverse of A times B. And that's how you would take care of that.